What about the weird mage with the broom? He would light his the broom
oh
on
my
fire?
God. I have a clip of that guy. And I mean, I think that encapsulates the riots perfectly. Is like, there's trash strewn on the street. There's like rocks that are being thrown at police. There's garbage everywhere. The police have their shields set up in front of the courthouse. I actually recorded this on the second night, and this guy literally like lights his broom. I don't know how that broom lit on fire, but he looks like he's a character out of Mad Max. He's got like football shoulder pads. He's got like a long kilt, and he's sweeping with a flaming broom the garbage that, you know, even if he swept for 3 days, he'd never be able to sweep all that garbage up. And somebody from behind the camera just yells, "That's metal as fuck." And I think like that encapsulates it perfectly, because what it is, I mean, what these riots were is basically a spectacle of political violence that were allowed to take place because, you know, one side wanted to show how oppressive and fascistic and violent the police were, and then the other side wanted to, and then, you know, by proxy, Donald Trump, and then the other side wanted to show how viciously terrible the BLM quote unquote terrorists were. And, you know, we obviously, like the language that we use to describe these things, like just the very word of like whether you use demonstrators or rioters is extremely important, because, you know, it kind of like characterizes, yeah, he's looking at the camera. But that's why we just started using like demonstrators / rioters, because it's also difficult to determine, like, for example, at 1/6 as well, like who came out there with good intentions and get caught in the middle of the mayhem, and who came out there specifically because they knew it was a power vacuum and they wanted to create chaos. And so I think like the intentions of the people that came out there is, you know, implied by that language. So here we are caught in between in this chaos, and it's really difficult. You can't go up to somebody and be like, "Excuse me, do you identify as Antifa?" And so, like, again, like you said, everybody became Antifa for one side, and everybody was like a mostly peaceful protester to the other side.
Yeah, they were civil rights activists. I knew what I was doing, though. I'll always admit, I knew what I was doing. I knew what I believed. And I think that going on that third day when we were at the courthouse, people always ask the question, you know, like how they always call Poso a plant or whatever, you know, oh, how these guys know what was going on. Dog, the work we did
wasn't very hard.
The work we did out there should just be a slam of the mainstream media.
Exactly.
Of how literally lazy and shitless they are with their own jobs. That if you just take a second to try to figure out where the news story is, it's not that hard to find. You could literally go on Twitter and people say, "I'm going to be here, I'm going to do this, we're going to wreck this city." And the point is, the reason why it wasn't covered was not because it was hard to cover, it was because it was intentionally ignored, and it was intentionally pushed aside so that narratives could be made.
Yes,
now,
exactly.
we got pushed into a hard part because we were doing our jobs well, which was to show people what was really going on. But where I will admit that the critics could get into is our biases were there because we're not formally trained in terms of like to push an agenda. We were just individuals capturing footage, and this is the first time that a lot of that gonzo journalism came back into play. It's like Vietnam-style journalism where you are not comparing it to war, but meaning you're just having individuals giving their perspective live in real time, and you're risking your life and your safety to get the footage up in real time.
And it's wild, like everything's going on at once, and you're trying to tweet and
run in cover to get the tweet out, and then you're pushing this perspective to where people are like, "Oh, you should have said this, you should have said that," and you're like, "You bitch! If I sat in my stupid apartment in Manhattan and had 2 days and could look at 19 angles, maybe I would have framed this differently." But when you're in the middle of the shit, when you're filming people shoot each other, stab each other, throw bricks at each other, rob stores, it's really hard to give a very balanced perspective because I don't know what's actually happening.
The toothpaste coming out of the tube.
What I'm seeing in my eyes. Now, of course, that's why I had a show. I have this show and I do it differently. But this is why we're able to talk about this years later. Let's jump into night 3. Night 3 was crazy. That was a siege of the.
Yeah, I mean, a bunch of guys tried to mug me of my phone because I had like the 3. You know, at the time it was like I guess it was like an iPhone 12, and it had the 3 lenses on it, so it was visibly, you know, an expensive phone. And the guys are like, "Yo, nice phone." And this happened multiple times in all of these chaotic places, which is like people are going to try to mug other people because it's a power vacuum. And I had my running shoes on, and I'm like up on a light box, you know, filming all the burning cars, and I'm like, "Oh, what, this one?" You know, you wave it at him like to try to distract him, and then boom, I'm just sprinting for 200 yards until I know that I've gotten enough separation. And the same thing happened in Philly the night that you got punched in the face. Like 3 or 4 people tried to mug me that night because of, you know, the look of my phone.
Right. And I was gonna say, let's go how we met Kyle. I think the only original footage of Kyle that was used in the court case, because you actually testified, we'll get into that later. The original footage of Kyle, and you can add the litigation names to these. What was that building? We ran into Kyle, but I also ran into Kyle earlier that night. I ran into Kyle for the first time earlier that night.
Yeah, you saw him way earlier than I did.
Yeah, because I was picking up on police scanners, and they were saying, this is where I used the phrase. Originally, I said Boogaloo Boys, because I was going off the police scanners, which said there was some militia. I call them a militia, too, because I was just going off police scanners. This is where the right wing gets mad at me, which they're going to probably hate you. Yeah, they're like, oh, you're a liberal because you call them a militia. It's like, dude, I just heard a police scan saying there was a militia, possible Boogaloo Boys armed with long rifles heading into the riot, which was at this point a police standoff in the middle of the main boulevard, the main street, by the city hall. Remember that, with all the media was lined up in a row.
Yeah, that was in front of the courthouse.
Yeah, and they were all standing off. So that's when I really went out to. I mean, I was already out there, but I remember hearing, okay, yeah, there's militia. So I thought that there was going to be a gun battle breakout, possibly right then. I don't know when you first heard about them.
Actually, it's interesting the way that I encountered those guys, all the armed individuals who were in front of the car source business was actually at the time, like, I had no cell service in front of the courthouse, and there weren't enough people there to really overwhelm the cell towers. So it's pretty clear that they were probably using some kind of jammer system. And now, like, in court, it came out that, like, the FBI literally had a drone up in the air. They kept that footage hidden until the trial, which, would have been very helpful for people making sense of what happened in the entire year leading up to that trial. But obviously they kept it hidden because, they were afraid that it would maybe strengthen Rittenhouse's defense case. I'm not sure exactly what the logic was there. And then they also had a Cessna flying up above with infrared. And so my question is if the federal law enforcement agencies had that many resources dedicated to surveilling what was going on, why the hell weren't there more people on the ground preventing it from happening in the first place? And I think that's the question that's really difficult to answer, because you ask yourself, were they keen on letting that chaos persist? Were they keen on, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to sit down with you, is because, like, as long as we're fighting between, the left and the right, we're not paying attention to the bigger problems. And we're not paying attention to the issues that really caused this in the first place, which is our institutions are failing us. People are no longer able to put food on the table for their families because multinational corporations care more about profits for their fat cat shareholders than they do for people who work for them actually being able to make a living and provide for their families. And so as long as we're pointing left, right, we're not paying attention to the fact that as we oscillate between the left and the right, the situation gets worse and worse for the average American, and the middle class is just disappearing before our eyes.
There's brands that help make this show possible, and most importantly, make it possible for you to support what matters most, which is why I got to tell you about the boxers I'm wearing today. Yes.
Whoa.
I am wearing UNDERTAC boxers. So UNDERTAC is a company, if you don't know this, they're a company that loves America. They love freedom of speech. They actually reached out to me after the Kyle Rittenhouse event when I got deplatformed, when I lost revenue from other sponsors, said, we're going to continue to support you. We believe in your right to speak out freely. And the best part about their boxers is they're not these rainbow waistband, Fruit of the Looms for fruits. They're actually battle tested, special forces tested. They don't ride up. They wick out water and moisture. They don't lose elasticity. And most importantly, they're made of cotton, so they don't have all the polyester crap that makes you lose sperm count. It's a big deal.
I don't wear underwear, but if I did,
you would get UNDERTAC. Yeah. And they're amazing boxers, guys. I wear them everywhere on every trip. They literally are the official underwear of Slightly Offensive. And make sure you get some for yourself. Get a spare. Get one for your man. Get one for yourself. Buy a pair. They're so amazing. They come in amazing colors. And of course, they also donate portions of the profits to veterans groups. So it's amazing to get. Make sure that you support yourself right now. Get the best boxers that allow you to produce the most amount of sperm, keep your junk in its place, and allow you to move freely and support what matters most. Go to getundertac.com, GETUNDERTAC.com. So go to getundertac.com, use promo code offensive20, OFFENSIVE20 for 20% off site-wide. Please support them. They're supporting Slightly Offensive. Getundertac.com, promo code offensive20. Check it out.